Evening, everyone. Welcome to part 3 in my Nightmare After Nightmare Night reading of Saddlesoap Opera's wonderful fanfic. Hope you're all enjoying it so far, so let's go ahead and get started with the show. Lock, Shock, and Barrel scurried up to the mouth of a zigzagging alleyway. The three mischievous trick-or-treaters crowded on top of one another in a struggle for the best viewing angle. "It's so bright," said Lock from the top of the pile, squinting through his devil mask at the strange four-legged creature trotting along next to Jack down Halloween Town's main street. "And dainty," added Barrel from the bottom. He raised his skull mask and slurped at an orange and black swirled lollipop. "Yeah," agreed Lock. Barrel joined him in an exaggerated "Blech!" Shock murmured something behind her witch mask. "What was that?" asked Lock, cupping a hand to his ear. Shock repeated herself. "I like it." "You what?" said her two cohorts in unison. Shock removed her mask. Her beady eyes were sparkling and sweat beaded on her forehead. "I don't know what's wrong with me, but I like it. It looks nice." She bit her lower lip. Her fingers tightened anxiously around the edges of her mask. I think I want to brush it." "You don't even know what it is," said Lock incredulously. "I don't care," she snapped. Lock and Barrel slapped a hand over her mouth from above and below and hissed out a chiding "Shh." "Did you hear something odd just now?" asked Rarity. Her eyes shifted slightly. Jack paused for a moment to listen. "No, only the usual screams, howls, snarls, and the like." I see. Very well, then." Rarity suppressed a shudder as they resumed their tour. "But as I was saying, I feel simply mortified by being so undignified earlier. If I'd known you were royalty—" "Think nothing of it. Screams are my stock in trade." Jack smiled. "But as for royalty, it's really more of a ceremonial—" "Jack, there you are!" A pear-shaped man wearing a formal suit, complete with an excessively tall top hat, jogged up to Rarity's skeletal tour guide. His face was like a chalk-white mask locked in a dismal frown. "You keep wandering off like this. It's almost time for Halloween." Jack leaned forward and rested a comforting hand on the man's shoulder. "Not to worry, Mayor, I did some planning, and my revision shouldn't take more than a few hours. I'd never let a year of preparation go to waste. Everything will be fine, I assure you." Jack reached into his suit jacket and produced a slip of paper. "Here, I wrote down the key points on the way back from the hinterlands." The mayor took the paper and looked it over. In a few moments, his head spun around with a mechanical creak, revealing a second, far happier face on the opposite side. "Brilliant as always! I was a fool to doubt you, Jack!" The mayor ambled off, cheerily humming a macabre little tune. Rarity raised an eyebrow. "You spend the whole year preparing for this one holiday?" "Absolutely," said Jack, beaming with pride. "If anything, I wish we had more time. My designs can be fairly complex." Rarity shook her head ruefully. "Oh, believe me, I know the feeling. First there was the grand galloping gala, and now, even if this whole falling into another world of bizarre creatures business hadn't tripped up my schedule, I'd still not concerned I would have finished my costume in time for our Nightmare Night celebration." Jack stopped undead in his tracks. He looked at his visitor up and down. "Your costume isn't finished?" "It looks fine to me." Rarity covered her dainty laugh with a front hoof. That's kind of you to say, but I'm not even wearing my costume right now. And as I said, I'm fairly sure I've missed the whole affair anyway." Jack pounded a bony fist into his upturned palm. "That won't do at all! You can't attend a holiday celebration without a costume!" He pondered the dilemma for a moment, tapping a finger against his skull, before his expression brightened into a cheery rictus. "I've got it! You can finish your costume here! Our masquerade shops are second to none. You'll be able to find whatever you need." He stooped down to face Rarity eye-to-eye socket. "And as for missing out, well, I wouldn't worry. Time in holiday towns like this doesn't always pass as it does elsewhere. You may well be able to get home in time." "Really? Oh, that would be just marvelous!" Stars shone in Rarity's eyes. "Whatever would I have done without you? You're my knight in shining barding, your highness." "You're most welcome." Jack rose and cleared his throat. but please, call me Jack. Twilight Sparkle blearily raised her head and took stock of her surroundings. The clearing was similar to the one in Everfree, but with fewer door trees and less canopy and underbrush. There were almost no leaves on the trees at all, in fact. Twilight was lying on the hard-packed earth at the base of a pale-barked tree. She still wore her robes and her pointed hat was on the ground next to her, but she'd lost her beard in the howling winds that had sucked them through the door. She got to her hooves, putting on her hat, and started looking for her friends. Pinkie? AJ? Dash? Fluttershy? Where are you? She called out. As she trotted forward, she nearly stepped on the straw hat from Applejack's scarecrow costume. She magicked it up and revealed her Oath Pony's friend's severed head. Ah! Twilight screamed in terror and galloped in place in a panic. Her panic only deepened when Applejack's head opened its eyes and screamed back. Before her fear could take over completely, a hoof tugged on Twilight's robes. She turned to face the pony, ready to share her terrible discovery, but there was no friendly gaze to meet hers, only a gaping neck hole stuffed with straw. Twilight unleashed an even bigger scream. "Stop screaming and help me," said Applejack's head while her body sat down and crossed its front hooves. "I'm all right, you just startled me is all." Twilight's jaw dropped. Applejack? You're a... I know, I'm Scarecrow, and it's powerful strange, I don't mind telling you. My head came right off when I landed. I've been stumbling around for a while now, but I didn't make much progress without being able to see. Applejack carefully reached down and picked up her head. She frowned in concentration as she tried to put it back in its proper place. Here, let me help you, said Twilight. She ignited her horn and sewed the burlap of Applejack's neck to that of her shoulders with conjured twine. Thank you kindly, said Applejack, craning her repaired neck from side to side. I heard screams. Is every pony all right? Fluttershy's soft voice had come from somewhere above and behind Twilight. Fluttershy? Twilight turned and looked around, leaning to peer past the tree against which she'd woken up. I'm here, Twilight. The tree twisted, revealing a shape not unlike a cyan-eyed equine face 3/4 of the way up its trunk. Oh my, said the tree. How did you all get so small? At a total loss for words, Twilight simply stared up at the Fluttershy tree with her eyes wide and her jaw slack. The tree stared back for a moment before finally seeming to take stock of the situation. Oh, well this isn't so bad, I guess. Fluttershy's cheek brightened with a sap-colored blush. I mean, I've always wondered what it'd be like. As Fluttershy waved her limbs experimentally, Pinkie Pie dropped out between her upper branches and landed on the ground in a puff of dust and white feathers. She hopped to her feet, met Applejack's gaze, and then took off like a shot, squawking in fear and flapping her feathered front legs. Twilight Sparkle slid an exasperated hoof down her face. Okay. Apparently our costumes are real in this world. We'll just have to make do and find Dash and Rarity and get back to Equestria. Hold on a minute, said Applejack. Fluttershy wasn't dressed up as no tree. She didn't have on a costume at all. I may have tried to hide under a pile of branches when the wind got really loud. Huh. Well, all right. But how about you, Twilight? Twilight waited for a still panicked Pinkie to pass between them before answering, I'm not sure. I feel fine. Maybe it's because I lost my beard. I mean, without the beard, the costume isn't finished. This way I look more like Star Swirled in the early days as the wandering lone hunter and adventurer. Twilight straightened. Her gaze turned stern and determined, and her voice slowly rose in volume. Exploring Palo Pony ruins for secrets of eldritch magic, traveling to far-off places with my faithful companions, confronting frightful monsters with my mighty magic. Twilight's horn glowed under her hat. She conjured a jewel-topped wooden staff, and defeating evil wherever it may lurk, in the name of the Unicorn King! Twilight laughed boisterously and swung the magic staff forward, blocking Pinkie's path. The chicken pony stopped in her tracks. No time for running about now, my fun-loving friend! Twilight boomed. We have damsels to rescue and treasure to find. Ha ha ha! Twilight pointed her staff in an apparently random direction and strode forward with total conviction. Onward to glory! Pinkie tagged along, her head bobbing happily as she walked. Applejack raised an eyebrow. Treasure? What treasure? There's always treasure, said Twilight without looking back. Trust me! The Scarecrow turned to the tree next to her and frowned. Fluttershy shrugged.
She seems to know what she's doing,
she said, and twisted her branches and roots into something like a four-legged stance. She trotted off after the pair, her long stride making up for her slow gait. Applejack shook her head and followed. Citizens of Ponyville, your princess has so enjoyed tonight's festivities that we have decided to hold an encore. Nightmare Night shall begin again! The gathered throng of ponies stared up in silence for a long moment, until a pale yellow foal dressed as a princess spoke up.
More costumes?
She asked meekly.
More
added a lavender unicorn foal dressed as a firefighter.
More Princess Luna?
Said Pipsqueak the pirate, his unpatched eye brightening. Verily! The foals cheered and stomped applause. The adults soon joined them, and then got to work on restarting the celebration. Spike stood up on Zecora's back and leaned past her head for a better view of the proceedings. Huh? He said.
They took it better than I thought they would.
Zecora turned away from the crowd. For now it seemed they took it well, but later, only time will tell.
Oh, don't worry. Twilight and the gang will be back before you know it.
The alternative is endless night. For all our sakes, I hope you're right.